Hi everybody, it's Jack here from the community team, joined with Brooke from the US support team. Today we're going to be starting a little beginner series, I guess you could call it, for those folks who are brand new to Jane or are just looking to remember some of the basics. So we're going to walk through, starting with a new practitioner, creating their shifts, managing their shifts, credentials, you name it. We're going to start covering how to get started with a new practitioner. So Brooke, if you would like to share your screen, and we'll go from, I guess, adding the staff member.
Yeah, well, for some of our clinics, if you're a solo provider, you don't need to do this, but for our demo, since everybody kind of already has shifts, I also thought this might be a good option also to go over if you are not a solo provider and you need to add in your staff members.
Who,
So,
I was going to say,
sorry.
who knows? Maybe the solo provider has just leveled up and they're opening up their practice to a new staff member. Who
Exact.
knows?
Yeah, and they can't remember how to do that, their shifts either. So here we are. So in your staff profile, you'll want to select the new staff member tab. And all you really need is maybe their first name, their last name, definitely required, and then the discipline that they are in. So if it's the same discipline as yourself, you'll just go ahead and add that. You might need to add a new discipline. Maybe we'll cover that on another series coming up soon. Not sure, but you'll have to add in your new discipline and treatments that they'll offer. But for what we're going over here today, let's just say I am a chiropractor. And then this information, this is their contact information. This is just going to be on your internal side. So it's not patient facing. So you can put in their email. You're for sure going to want to put in their email address because then after we save this, you'll be able to send them the welcome email. Just go to somebody else here. You'll be able to send them the welcome email that prompts them to create their username and passwords for them to log in and work.
Awesome.
All right, so then to set up their schedule, uh, you can head to either yourself or another staff member's schedule. And at the top here, you'll see the shifts button. So if you're going to do all of your days of the week, it's easiest to do that by selecting the arrow and do this manage shifts. So here I can do all of the days I work all at once. I will have to do kind of each one still individually, how long I work. I can set the time on each days that I work, but we'll want to select these icons here. So if you are offering online booking, we'll want to make sure that we allow this to be booked online. If you are offering rooms, you can select which room these are going to be in. And then if you use tags, you can go ahead and add your tags. Jack and I have done
Yeah.
a session on tags, so you can go and
Yeah, if you
watch
don't know
that
what
too.
tags are, search for it. It'll
Exactly.
pop
Yeah,
up on YouTube.
perfect. Yeah. Now, once you've gone ahead and added in the times and the days that you work, what you will also want to make sure to do, which I see this done frequently, is to make sure we set the dates that we need these shifts to be applied to. I see this quite often is we go ahead at our times and we hit this apply schedule, but it only defaults for the current week we're looking at. So you'll want to make sure that we set this out. You can do your shifts 5 years into the future, a year, but the next important thing is if you do change the year, make sure you actually click into that calendar to select which day of that year you want this to repeat until. Otherwise, you're still just doing it for the week. Once you do make all of your settings, you're going to hit this apply shift schedule. If you do set that time frame correctly, you'll see that number is going to be pretty high, not just a week's worth.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then now we've gone ahead and added our shifts.
Awesome. Another thing I've seen in the community is, how do you add in your breaks so that people aren't popping in while you're having a sandwich
Hmm.
or your coffee, right?
Yeah, yeah. I like to take lunch. I like food.
Yeah, it's
So
always enjoyable.
it's always enjoyable. So here at the bottom left, we're just going to go ahead and hit that break button. And with that now kind of us in break mode, I can add in my lunch break to my days. So if I take it the same time every day, once we set it, I could have this to repeat every day with a shift. Same thing as that other managed shifts, as I do have to go in and set an end time to when I want that break to be repeated until.
Awesome.
These breaks could also be used for any personal time that you don't want to be booked. So whether it's lunch or maybe you have a private appointment, anytime at all that you don't want a patient to be able to book online, you're going to put that in.
For
Or
sure. I think
internal
it,
use too.
yeah, I think it's timely as well with the holidays coming up.
Hmm.
Most folks are probably closed over the holidays or have a few days off, hopefully,
Hmm.
and so they can block out their full shifts if they don't want to like delete any of the shifts or anything like
Exactly,
that.
yeah. If you do need to ever edit a shift, so maybe on one specific day, maybe you wanted to add in a day that you're working an additional week rather than adding the or doing the managed shifts, you could just add in one by either edit individual shift. I could change a specific time. If I maybe this day I decided to come in early, I can go ahead and change that. And if it's just for this one day, I can do only this shift. If it's for the whole every Monday going forward, I could select the other option. Or if I wanted to add maybe an additional day on this one particular week, I could do that too.
Awesome. Another question I saw pop up in the community recently is how to add your credentials or your licensing so that they appear on your patients'
Hmm.
invoices. So maybe we'll have a
Yeah.
quick look at that.
Yeah. So each staff member in their staff profile here in the billing tab. So this will depend also if you're on our Canadian plans or our US plans. Also, if you're on our base plan in the US versus our insurance plan, are going to have your credentials in different places. For our US customers on our base plan, you'll only have these ID numbers. And this means, all of the different credentials will be on your invoices, receipts, um, and then on our US insurance plan, you do have these other default claim information for like your MPI, taxonomy numbers that you'd add in there as well. But for
Awesome.
super bills, actually one thing on our US team, if you are on an insurance plan and you need numbers on the super bills, you'll want to add your MPI numbers also and just the ID numbers here.
Awesome. Okay, I seem like I have a lot of rapid fire community questions this week. Another thing I saw pop up is how do we mend the open and closing
Hmm.
time of for your online booking, right? It comes for default times when you first set up your account, but I'm sure like some people start earlier or would like to stay
Mhm.
open later. So let's have a look at how we do that.
Yeah, definitely. I believe by default, it starts you from 8 to 5. But of course, if you work earlier than 8, if you work after 5 o'clock and you want to change the time that you're able to see your grid and set your shifts to, you're going to head to your settings and then head to schedule settings. So here we can change our opening time and the closing time. Now, we generally recommend having this set maybe like an hour prior to when you actually see patients. That way, if you do ever need to squeeze anybody in before your start time, after end time, you're still able to schedule an appointment kind of before you officially might offer online booking or something.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and then another thing is, I think everyone has probably who's sat in the support seat at Jane has heard that their availability isn't appearing online, and for a moment you might feel like you're you're gonna have a heart attack trying to figure out where your appointments are. And there's a few places that you need to enable your appointments on the back end of
Hmm.
Jane to make sure that they appear. So maybe we'll have a quick look at, making sure that those shifts that we've just built out are online, but also within the profile and
Hmm.
also in the appointment when you create it.
Yeah, there are lots of ways why your availability might not be showing online. Definitely if you maybe check some of these things that we go over right now and it's still not, give us a call because it could be something else. But for the most part, my first go-tos are your shifts set to bookable online? So if your shifts are set to not bookable, of course, regardless of all your other settings, if your shifts aren't showing, to be booked online, you're not going to show online booking. So that's one. And you can see the banner. We have one right here. The shift will say not bookable online. So you can just see that right from your schedule. And then there are other settings. So either in the staff profile, you can view some online booking, whether you want to enable it for this specific staff member. I like to also go to the settings though to see it on a wider clinic-wide setting here. If you go to settings online booking, here I can see whether I have online booking allowed at all. So you might have the set to disabled. I can see a location. So if you have your locations unchecked, but everything else checked, your online booking won't work either. So another key thing to note there. And then specific disciplines. So maybe you've added something and that wasn't enabled, show that way. Staff members here, I can see which staff members I have bookable online, and then treatments as well. So different ways to control this on what you want offered online, when you want that offered. Yeah, so just have a look here and see what you have. So obviously, if all of these are unchecked, then
Yeah.
none of your treatments are going to be online.
Another thing I just remembered is in line with us talking about shifts is that if those shifts, you've just built it out for a month or 3 months, you might forget that you need to create
Mm,
your next batch of shifts, right? So
hmm
once your shifts are gone, the appointments that are bookable online disappear too, right?
Yes, that happens quite regularly, especially if you set them out for like a year and then
Yeah.
come December and you're like, hey, my appointment times in January are not showing online. You can change those. So if you go back to your schedule and you realize you only set, this one here we just created, we didn't repeat it, or if we did and it ended, I can go in and just change the repeat until. So you don't have to totally rebuild your shifts either. You can go back in time. So if they ended 3 weeks ago, I can go back and do that, edit individual shifts and change that repeat until date till further out.
Awesome. Perfect. And I guess just as a bonus, we've kind of covered everything we wanted to chat about today. But one thing, especially, the New Year's coming up, um, we think about that like, refresh that comes with the new year. Um, but we often forget about refreshing our devices, right? And one of those easy things that you can do in a minute or so is, clear your cache, update your Chrome browser. I've for I've lost track of the amount of times I've seen the little red notification in the top right corner and just haven't clicked on it. But it's a simple thing that can make your browser run better, but also make Jane run a little bit
Hmm.
smoother if it's a little bit slow. It just might be gummed up a bit. So uh, maybe we can go over quickly just how to update your browser and clear your cache.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's easy. There'll be a little notification here that you need to update, but sometimes
Yeah,
it's not. So if we go to um our here's we can go ahead and clear our cache.
yeah.
We can clear our browser history, and then if there is a update, we can go to settings, about Chrome, and we can see if we need an update.
I'm hoping this. Oh my goodness,
Oh my
you've been caught.
goodness.
You've been caught,
I've
Brooke.
been
You need to
caught.
update.
I was on holidays.
That's a good excuse. That's a good excuse. We'll let you away with it this week.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I think that's everything we're going to cover this week. Um, we're excited to kind of, I guess, dig into those beginner fundamentals that you should feel comfortable with when you're using Jane. So next week we're going to be going over, booking your first appointment, arriving it, and navigating the charting section when you have your first client in. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye bye.